Hey guys, it's Bass Play 12, or Mitch as you guys know me, and I'm on my way to Sunday morning worship team practice. And today's video is going to be 4 lies that the enemy or Satan will tell you. For those of you that do worship, 4 lies that he will tell you to just make your worship. He's going to be just trying to discourage you, because he knows that if he can discourage you, he'll discourage the entire church. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Lie number 1. He's going to lie to you and tell you that the congregation does not care about worship. And where might, his evidence lie? You get it? Lie? He'll tell you, look at the congregation. They're not crying. They're not putting their hands up. They're not falling over in their chairs into the aisles. We have to be careful what we watch. We might watch videos of other people's worship service, and we might see that, and we might use that as our standard of, hey, that was a really great worship service. Did you see all those people raising their hands and falling over and crying? And we cannot use that as our measuring stick for the, effectiveness and just the spirit of worship. But the enemy will tell you that. He'll say, look, the congregation is just like, falling over. They're bored, they're tired, they're into the service. They're not clapping their hands, thus they don't care. And we have to be careful with that kind of lie, because we can get super discouraged with that. And there's always going to be somebody in the worship service that just is genuinely, I don't care, I don't like this. And what we have to be careful about is not to let us think that that's everybody. I've definitely seen people where they have their arms folded. They're just like, no, I'm not doing this. They just have this attitude like, man, let's just get through this thing. And we just have to be careful not to throw everybody into that same attitude, because everybody's not in that same attitude. But the enemy would love to put that into your head, like everybody's like that. Everybody doesn't care. Everybody just wants this to be done with. We just have to be careful to not let that attitude permeate through our spirit, because that's going to be just, obviously the enemy would love to discourage you and get you to just quit. Figure out, hey, you know what? Why bother? We had 4 songs in our set. Let's just do 3 because nobody's into this. The enemy would just love to discourage us to the point where we just think nobody cares. And we just need to be able to say, you know what? I'm not playing for everybody, as far as, I don't need to see everybody raising their hands, screaming, crying, whatever we think, is the effective worship. We're playing for God. He's there, and he's enjoying every minute of it. And we sometimes get caught up in worrying about everybody else but him. So we just need to say, you know what, God, I don't care if not one single hand gets raised. Now I have to be careful on this one too. Not that I'm the worship leader. There's a lot of people that come with a lot of baggage on Sunday mornings, and sometimes they're just going to need from the worship leader some type of wake-up call, like, with definite understanding. You know what, guys, I know that you're coming in with a lot of stuff, a lot of worries, cares, concerns, but we're here to just worship God. We're here to let him take care of all of those cares and concerns. So let's worship him. But that's sometimes what we need to understand is not, people that are not raising their hands and worshiping, that's not necessarily something we have to control or care about. We just need to care about if God gets glorified, praised, worshiped on Sunday morning, throughout the week. But that's something that we just have to know. Sometimes we feel like we have to force that, and that's something that God takes care of. So that's number one. Number two, the enemy will tell you, wow, you guys sound terrible. Now I have to be careful on this one here because, obviously if you're playing the wrong notes, if your vocalists are off, that's something that you just need to be musically inclined to. Like, guys, we're off. The beat is off. The notes are off. And sometimes genuinely it does sound bad. But on the mornings where everything's going well, everything, the enemy will still try to come in and say, man, this sounds terrible, you guys. And what we have to be careful of is we're listening to the music as musicians. And so every little thing we're going to be, judging with a fine-tooth comb. The enemy's going to come in and say, you missed that one note. The whole worship thing is ruined. And we have to be mindful of, we're doing the best we can. We practice the best we can. If somebody misses a note, who cares? We are not going to let that hijack our worship. And we need to let the enemy know that's not going to let the hijacking of the worship happen. Because a lot of times, all of us on the worship team, we're like, wow, that sounded bad. Yeah, we went to the chorus instead of the verse. And then when we talk to the congregation later, they're just like, man, thank you so much for this worship. It was awesome. It was amazing. Because a lot of times we're listening to it as musicians going, oh man, we totally blew it. And the enemy would love to pounce on that and say, because you guys went to the chorus instead of the verse, of course you guys blew it. But we have to realize, you know what? We push forward. We just need to understand that we're doing the best we can. If we screw up, now thankfully we have 2 services, so if we screw up, we can hopefully fix it for the second service. But we need to just understand, you know what? We're not going to let that hijack our service. Satan, you're not going to let us think that because we know that we have done everything we can, we know that we've hit all the right notes, that we're not going to let you tell us otherwise. And so, number 2, you don't sound as bad as you sometimes think because we're just overly judging the sound, the music, because that's what we're doing. We're musicians. Our ear is going to do that, and we just have to scale it back sometimes and go, you know what, guys? Now again, be careful. This is not a substitute for excellence and doing the best you can, but we can't sit there and go, you know what? Let's just ditch this song. Let's just, oh man, it just sounded terrible because we missed that one note. We just can't let ourselves get overly critical about ourselves. Number 3, the enemy will tell you, you know what? You're not appreciated. The congregation, they don't say thank you. They don't respond to your service. That is such a hugest lie. The enemy will come in and he'll do that for anything. With the pastor, with the ushers, the enemy will just come in and say, you know what, nobody really cares. You could be gone to, next Sunday and nobody will notice. And that's just the hugest lie out of hell. Obviously, he wants to make you feel depreciated, unappreciated, uninspired. And, obviously we're not there to get pats on the back. We're not there to, hey, nobody said anything this week, this Sunday. Man, we must have really stunk it up. We cannot let our service to God be measured on what people say or do. I am not looking in my mailbox for thank you notes like, oh, thank you so much, you're so wonderful. That's not why we're there. We're not there for us. We're there for God. So my big thank you is in God, just appreciating that I'm there. He knows I'm there. He cares whether I'm there week to week, and that's all that I care about. It's never about, man, nobody says anything. Nobody, nobody says your worship was wonderful. We move on. We do what God tells us to do, and we're not going to let, what people say or don't say motivate us or keep us on track for that. And then number 4, I feel the enemy sometimes moves the other way. I sometimes feel he'll over pump yourself up with pride. Like, you are so amazing. If you weren't there, this whole worship team would go to pots. If you weren't there, nothing else matters. And sometimes I feel that the enemy reverses his position on that, where he'll say, you know what, you're so important to this worship team that everything that you say needs to go. Nobody else matters. So it's one of those, I feel, reverse pride things, where he'll get your pride to be so big that he can take the worship team in a different direction, to where, if, you're so amazing. Wow, I don't have a parking space here. You're so amazing that this worship team has to have you. Everything that you say must go. And that's a dangerous attitude to have, and that's pumped up by the enemy. So we just have to be careful what we hear, as far as that, because all the Bible verses that talk about pride. It's dangerous. It's awful. I'm going to go ahead. I'm here at church, but I will definitely add to this section what to do if we hear these lies from the enemy. Sorry I had to cut you off like that, but I had gotten to church and we had to practice. So let me go ahead and just finish what to do if you feel like the enemy is just throwing you these lies. Actually, first, you have to just make sure that it's not just you, because sometimes we give the enemy too much credit and we think that it's him when it's actually us that are feeding ourselves these things that are not really true. So, if you feel like it's the enemy, just come against him like you would anybody who you feel like they're lying to you. You just call it out and say, you know what, you're lying. That's not true. And you just feed yourself on God's word and just tell yourself, you know what, I'm going to believe what God says. I'm not going to believe what I tell myself. I'm not going to believe what the enemy might lie to me about, and just say, you know what, God, I rest on your promises. I rest that you appreciate that I'm here, that you love what I'm doing, and that's all that really matters. So today it's just one of those things where I hope you can realize some of the things that you might be believing, whether it's coming from you or the enemy, and just tell yourself, I'm going to believe what God says. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing and just trust in him. Pray that he gives you just the discernment to know when, you feel like you're actually being lied to. And, like I said earlier, realize when it's really something that you can help and control, like the skillful playing that you do, or singing like that. But just realize when is it something that you can control and when it's something that you just have to give to God. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in my next video.